Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Global Thought Space on CxO Global TV. CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all C-levels across Pakistan and the globe. We take massive pride in contributing to the knowledge economy. And every time on our Global Thought Space, we've got these thought leaders who have made a considerable amount of difference in the fields that they're in. They're not only domain experts, the movers and shakers, but also those who are contributing every single day to the knowledge of everyone around them. We're very delighted to have an esteemed panel with us today. However, before I introduce the panel, let me tell you a little about what we're going to be speaking about today. So, we're going to be talking about the fourth industrial revolution. And why we chose this topic in particular is because we stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally, alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. We've seen this happen more than ever post-pandemic. And so, in its scale, scope, its complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything that the humankind has experienced before. We don't know how things will unfold. Not everything is revealed to us yet, but one thing is clear. The response to it must be integrated, it must be comprehensive, we must have our contingencies in place, and we must involve all the stakeholders of the global community, the public sectors, the private sectors, academia, and the civil society. Mr. the guest that we were waiting for has also joined us. So, without further ado, let me introduce our very, very esteemed panel today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Noor. He is CIO at Thal Limited, House of Habib. Then we've got Ron Thomas joining us from UAE. He's the managing director at Strategy Focus Group International, and he's also an international keynote speaker. We've got Mr. Mohammed Rehan Qadri. He's the director of digital business transformation at Khaadi. And then we've got Wajahaat Ali. He's the regional director at School 21. Let's begin by asking the gentlemen what they think about the fourth industrial revolution. Starting with you, Mr. Noor. So we know that we are at the confluence of a lot of different technologies at, par with the rest of the world today as well, not just in Pakistan, but globally as well. What do you anticipate is going to be the fourth industrial revolution?
Well, basically, if we see, the industrial revolution started way back. There's an okay. Shall I stop? No, I'm not able to hear your voice.
Yes, please begin. I just muted myself so the audience could hear you clearly.
Okay. Okay, with the industrial revolution basically started way back in 18th century. If we talk about the first and then the second and then the third industrial revolution, basically the earlier generations were basically the agriculturists, and then they moved down to newer technologies in order to industrialize themselves. So they basically they innovated themselves, and then gradually we migrated from all these revolutions down towards the fourth industrial revolution, where we are standing. We are basically on the brink of it, or in the middle of it, because if we see in the third industrial revolution, whereby all the analog information converted into digital, we saw Kodak and Fuji replaced by the digital cameras. We saw VCR replaced by of course, the DVDs and CDs. So in the fourth industrial revolution, basically, we are bringing in basically the physical systems, integrating them with the IT systems as well. So we want to integrate them so that we can get maximum information out from the shop floor. Why industrial revolution? Because the manufacturing industries want to get the better efficiencies, productivity from the investment they have made. So the organizations want the flexibility, the agility, and the information, maximum information out of the investment they have made so far. So industrial revolution helped them to keep abreast of competition as well. So making use of latest technologies, which include, of course, the IoT, the machine learning, the, the smart manufacturing. Of course, this will help the organization to move forward with the newer developments in the area of production and
Right.
manufacturing. Because
Absolutely.
earlier,
Yes. Mr. Noor Samit, you've really made a very valid point. However, I would like to ask Mr. Ron Thomas, because he has a lot of global exposure as well. We know that the fourth industrial revolution is not only about smart and connected machines and systems. The scope is much wider. And since you are someone that deals with a lot of HR and human resources, what does that entail? What does the fourth industrial revolution entail for human beings and people in general? What about employees? What about new job roles? What is it that you anticipate?
Well, I see, when you talk about the fourth revolution, the worker is different, the mindset is different. I say it's kind of a godsend, because this is going to usher this so-called fourth industrial revolution in a lot faster, because we're going to have to reimagine work. We're going to have to reimagine the workplace. We're going to have to reimagine the workforce. So I say to a leader, just imagine if you were starting from scratch, you had no reference point of something as simple as a 40-hour work week, everyone coming into a headquarters. So in this reimagining phase, you're going to have to experiment, because there's no one size fit all. I was just reading a report from Korn Ferry this morning as I was waiting for the session to start, and they were saying one of the key findings of that report was that in this new era that we're coming into, we're going to have to mix and match. We're going to have to see what works. Just because a company in, say, California, a company in London are trying things, that may not work from our side. But I think one of the keys is to bring the human element in. And if we're trying to figure out the so-called new way of working, this new workforce of the future, we're going to have to get input from the people that are workers. It can't be just a top-down approach anymore. A bunch of leaders sitting in a conference room and hashing out work models and all these things. Even as strategy shifts, or business model shifts, people are going to have to carry that out. Do we have the proper people? Are we developing our people? We hear reskilling, upskilling. We hear these terms going back and forth. But what does that really mean? It means a lot if we connect people to the strategy, because if the business model changes, everything is going to shift. I read a case study yesterday of the auto industry. You have the local dealer on the corner versus a lot of dealers are moving to e-commerce model. So that e-commerce model means I don't have to go into a showroom. I can go online and order a car, finance a car, the car is delivered to my house. So if I'm that old school dealer, I'm going to have to reimagine what an e-commerce model looks like. And I don't have a lot of time to make sure we have the right people to build that product and we're able to do business and compete. So it's kind of been a reimagining phase. And I look at it this way. Okay, I'm getting feedback. Do not let a disaster go to waste. You design from a disaster. COVID was, in that terms, a disaster. It disrupted the workplace. Now you've got a clean slate, and you have to develop a growth mindset and just go out and try and experiment.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ron, for sharing that feedback. I'm going to come towards you, Mr. Wajahaat Ali, and since you are someone that has been working in EdTech as well, and a lot of There is a lot of talk about disruptive technologies when you talk about the fourth industrial revolution. Obviously, post pandemic, we've all realized the need for edtech and how the whole system of learning. I'm not just going to say schooling, but also learning has been revolutionized. How do you see the evolution or the uptake of these disruptive technologies in education for the fourth industrial revolution?
Yes, definitely. First of all, I would like to put a light on
Mr.
what
Wajahat,
actually the
I
food.
think your mic has, you need to unmute your mic.
My mic is unmute. Can you hear me now?
We can't
Yes,
hear
yeah,
you.
I am able to hear you.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Is it okay now? Because my mic is unmute.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, they can hear me. All right. So before this, I want to put a light on what actually the fourth industrial revolution is. Like I was reading a book, and there it was written that the time we are entering into, it would be a time when you get up early in the morning, and your health intelligent agent, it will drop you a message that last night you hadn't good sleep, so you need to sleep 1 more hour to be fit in terms of your health. So you will sleep for 1 more hour, and then when you wake up, then you will receive a message from your hotel intelligent agent that you need such kind of food in your breakfast, because you are getting your diabetes level is this, and your health symptoms are these and these. So your hotel intelligent agent, they it would be there to prepare food for you that would be necessary for your health and your body. Then when you're leaving for your office, suddenly you will realize that in the coming week, your brother or some of your friend, they have got some engagement or marriage event you have to attend. Then you will receive a message from your insurance, your financial intelligence agent, that I had been through your calendar, Google Calendar, and I booked already had a reservation for the first available flight on these days. And the next message would be from your insurance intelligent agent, and that would be that the days you will be going to your friend place, on those days there would be a kind of such kind of diseases that could you may face there. So I already booked a best insurance policy for your health there. So we are entering into the phase where physical and mental world is connected, and that is what we call AI. Now, when I talk about education, so you better know the education is always about developing some skills. So the skill set, if I talk about particularly in terms of Pakistan, the skill set which we are, producing in our schools or universities, we are merely, focusing on the old system of rote memorization. Where my friends better said that mindset is changed, the business ecosystem is changed. But if I talk about education, we are still, lagging behind and still facing or focusing on old system to produce the new mindset. Like before COVID, when we used to visit different schools and we were talking to them to convert their education system to virtual system, because we are also dealing in edtech. Because edtech industry, it is about AI is also integrated to edtech industry. Now the LMS, learning management system, we talk it, or the softwares they are like they're using this platform, learning platform. There you can tell the accurate or the struggling point where a student is struggling to learn something, or where a student is on which point of time a student is performing better. So these are the results of this AI or edtech in education. But here in Pakistan, the main focus is still on this system where we are producing like make users, not makers. So I would say for especially for teachers and the education stream, now it is the time what COVID has told us or taught us, that we have to shift the education ecosystem, and that is how we can survive in the market. Like when we used to visit schools, they used to say us that we are, struggling. Our finances are not. We are not meeting our finances. But we are telling them education is, now shifted. You need to shift your mindset. You need to shift your ecosystem, and it is the virtual system you have to adopt with now to cope with the challenging
Right,
environment in 21st
absolutely.
century.
Mr. Wajahat,
Yeah,
you've made a very, very pertinent point. However, one thing to keep in mind with this whole fourth industrial revolution, especially in terms of education, is that we don't want subjects anymore. We want citizens, right?
exactly,
And that is something
exactly,
we need to keep in mind. And I expect with the advent of artificial intelligence and machine learning, we need to also focus a lot on like thinking skills and logic and analytics. And I know you're doing
exactly.
a lot of work in STEM as well,
Yeah, I
but we
I
need to
want to
also
put
work on the curriculum. So STEM make mandatory. Absolutely. I'm going to come back to your point. One of the audience members has obviously had a question for Mr. Rehan Qadri, and Mr. Rehan Qadri, I would like to ask you in particular, since you have been associated with the industry, and we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, we hear of a lot of buzzwords like the Internet of Things and machine learning and process automation, and so on and so forth. How much is digital transformation important in a part that you have to play in terms of a success for business? And what are some of the initiatives that you've taken at Khaadi?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. So every revolution which we talk about has been fueled by a form of energy, right? A form of power. Every revolution has been impacted by a form of power. If we see the first revolution, that was mainly steam and water. Second revolution is mainly powered by electrical energy. Third revolution by computing. So when we are entering into this fourth in- industrial revolution, it's actually powered by what I would say connectivity or internet that has actually fueled this revolution, where both the physical world and the digital worlds are actually merging together. So that's all about connectivity. Uh, and the mantra living in this world where there is the line between the physical world and digital world is very difficult to identify. I think the guideline or the principle is either go digital or die. So every business sooner or later will have to transform themselves in order to actually survive, right? So when you move between revolutions, this is actually the matter of whether you would survive or not.
yeah,
So so when I usually talk about digital transformation, it's actually not the matter of when. It's actually the matter of how. So the time for when has gone. So this is where, so as an organization which is there to sustain and which is there to lead, uh, we invest a lot in such technologies where we can impact both the lives of our customers and our employees as well. So the objective is to make sure that the customers and the humans, which are our employees, are more focused on executing things which are more creative, and that creativity is powered or empowered by technology. So when someone needs data, the data needs to be there. The only creative work or the value add the human should do is make use of that data, right? So analytics has a lot of importance in this world. We invest a lot in generating insights and analytics. We try to keep uh, integrated or connected with our customers. So this is where lots of investment goes into in order to make sure that the physical world and the digital world stay in tandem, and we add lots of value in this direction. So yeah, this is how we fuel our transformation.
Right. And you did make a very pertinent point about adding value. Thank you for that, Mr. Rehan Qadri. Mr. Noor Samad, when we talk about the potential, the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution, we know two things for sure. That one, the growth is not linear but exponential. And the second thing is that a lot of consumers around the world are going to have access to an improved quality of life. A very vast, range of the population are going to have access to a lot of new technologies. What do you have to say about the kind of opportunities that lie in the fourth industrial revolution? How we can tap into it?
Well, you are very much right that after the fourth industrial revolution, of course, the dynamics world in the world will change. So the world will, of course, look forward to basically adopt the latest technology that is available. For example, 5G, which will be there to make the which will be the actually the base to start off with the digital transformation or the industrial revolution, because all these systems that are required to be integrated will require a better platform, which will be the 5G. Of course, 5G is currently right now, but today I also, while surfing through the internet, found out that the in Norway they are using 7G and 8G as well. So the people are now moving ahead from 5G to 7G or 8G. So the amount of speed, it was saying that the 7G will have around 17.2 petabyte of per second of speed. So that would be available to all the systems that would be connected with that particular platform. So if we see, if I talk about the industries, basically the smart manufacturing will of course require a certain platform to move ahead. For example, if we integrate the dump machines, because in Pakistan, if we talk about, we have various machines which are either older generation machines and some are newer generation machines. And of course, we have to bring them into the same platform in order to get the information out of it. So for that, we are making use of IoTs. We are making use of machine learning tools. We are making use of big data in order to get the information from the basically shop floor environment, which is very much required. But if we talk about consumer industries or talking about the home, so of course we have building automation systems in place. Your air conditioning is also connected. Your car is going to be autonomous. You are basically entering the house and asking with the voice recognition, you would be basically demanding your requirements within the house, and that will be fulfilled with the platform that will be available with the latest internet, with the latest technologies that will be available for the consumer to move around. So there will be a great change, and for that, a cultural change is also required within, not within the environment of the company, but within the country as well. Because when we bring about change, so people have to basically change their mindset and move ahead and adopt those practices that are now readily available, rather than making themselves stagnant with the pace of time.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and you brought forward some very relevant points in terms of, smart homes and autonomous cars, IoT, and so on and so forth. However, the possibilities of billions of people connected by mobile devices with unprecedented processing power, storage capacity, and access to knowledge, they're unlimited. Everyone agrees to that. And the possibilities are constantly multiplying. There are a lot of emerging technologies, and there's a breakthrough of tools. We do know that there's 3D printing, there's nanotechnology, there's biotechnology, there's quantum computing. But once again, I think one of the most important things to note here, and this is Ron, where I like your opinion in particular, what is it that we as human beings and especially businesses need to keep in mind? Because we do know that due to process automation, due to artificial intelligence, a lot of jobs will become obsolete. So, one, from the perspective of the workforce, what do they need to do to stay relevant? And what do businesses need to do in order to make sure that they're also being socially responsible?
Yeah, that's a lot. Social responsible, as well as business, a business focus. Um, so you hear the terms upskilling, reskilling, and then when you talk about, I had not heard about 6G, 7G. My goodness. So what impact will that have in the workplace? One of the things that COVID has shown us that we can basically work from anywhere. So if we have that much computing power as it relates to talent, the world is open, because why do I have to sit in Dubai and do work over 5G, 6G network when I can live in London, I can live in Thailand or Singapore? So I think that organizations are going to have to realize that, number one, it's going to be a broad breadth of talent available across the globe. But they're going to have to take the workforce that we have in place now and start trying to figure out, number one, future state skills as much as we know, because some jobs haven't even been created yet. What do we know, and what skills will we need for, say, in marketing, for say, in analytics, in these different approaches? And how do we take our workforce from where it is today to get to that point? What is that gap? And how do we begin closing the gap? So the people strategist is going to try and play catch up as technology is moving along, because all of the technologies we're talking about here, people designed it and people are going to have to work with it. So I look at a case that happened a few years back that Amazon was going to begin, I'm going to use the term, roboticize their workforce, but they chose a hybrid model. They saved 60 minutes per order using robots. That cost savings, they flipped that back over and invested. I'm going to use the term, they invested in their workforce to give them new skills to work in a digital era. So as organizations are looking to bring in robots and all these other type AI approaches, say for customer service, how can we replenish our workforce? How can we reskill our workforce? Not that we are going to be able to bring 100% along, but the focus should be on, we try and save as many of our people as possible. We invest in them, and I use the term explicitly investing, as opposed to looking at it as an expense, to get our workforce prepared for whatever G we're talking about, whatever IoT we're talking about, because in the end, it comes back to people. So organizations are going to have to take the lead and try and figure out, I'll begin working to try and figure out, how are we going to bring our workforce along? So we're trying to move the business along with a new strategy, a new business model, but it's kind of a dual process. As we do that, we've also got to reach back and bring our people along as much as possible, because the days of laying off an entire workforce, that's going to damage your brand, because your brand is on the internet now. You don't own your brand anymore. And people see you making decisions that you had no interest in trying to save your people are going to have a negative impact. And maybe the key people, strategic roles that you need would say, you know what, I read a bad article about these people when they had this mass layoff and they brought in robotics. They didn't try and save anyone. I don't think I want to work in an organization like that. So that comes back to purpose. How are we going to drive purpose in trying to reimagine this new workplace? Are we going to try and keep our people's their wants and need in mind as much as possible? Or are we just going to say, fine, you brought us here, now we're moving on to something else? We can't do that. And it has to be purpose driven.
Right. Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more about what you said about the human resources and how we need to literally look out for the people around us. One of the other challenges, ladies and gentlemen, has to be the fact that there are some scenarios that maybe we cannot foresee at this point in time. There's a lot of changes that are going to happen in the workplace, just like Ron Thomas pointed out. And in the future, talent more than capital will be important. I know this for a fact, and I know Mr. Rehan Qadri also agrees with me. There will be a rise in the job market, increasingly, segregated avenues like low skill, low pay versus high skill, high pay segments. And do you not feel that it's going to contribute to more social tensions? And Mr. Qadri, I would like for you to elaborate on this.
You are on mute.
Cannot hear you.
Yeah, you are on
Mr.
mute.
Qadri.
One of the sentences of the century. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I think one of the major differentiator of this revolution is actually the focus on talent versus the focus on capital, right? So
Yeah.
if we see the first three revolutions, it these were more focused on how much capital that can be injected into the business. But I think uh, capital is no more a primary concerns of the business. I think the major concern of the business in this revolution and other revolutions to come would be the talent, right? So yes, we know that it's all about technology, it's all about digital, but the talent the organizations would need to run these technologies, to take the benefit or the value out of these technologies would be immense. And the talent pool, so this revolution has suddenly came into the picture. Nobody actually planned for this revolution. So in order to make sure that the talent supply, rather than more than the capital supply, to survive in this digital or the digital world, would be more important. And the social responsibility of the organizations and of the government as well would be to create a platform where such talent can be developed. In fact, I have never heard that. In fact, even till the graduation from my university, I would say I have never created a robot. But my son, who is in class 3, has created a robot, taken a class on robotics, and shown me a robot and was lecturing me how the robot works. So a CIO of the organization fueling the digital transformation, the
Interesting,
three.
narrative. Absolutely.
So I can't hear you, Anza.
Yes,
Should I continue or?
Go ahead.
yes, please. I was just going to add that that's a very interesting narrative because, it rightly gives us a view of where the world is today and where we're heading. So sometimes, and I believe earlier we were having this discussion as well when we talk about job security and everything, that at the way the world is changing right now, it is so fast paced. And Rehan, since you are a pioneer in digital transformation, could you also please advise the businesses what are the first, like, let's say, two, three things that they have to keep in mind to digitally transform themselves across the industries? What three things, be it cloud, be it investing in trainings, what is it that businesses need to do as a contingency to make sure that they're not wiped out in this race towards the fourth industrial revolution?
So first and foremost, I think there is the need, or there is a need to create a desire for change, right? Until and unless there is a need or understanding of the desire for change, that revolution cannot come, that digital transformation cannot happen. So for first and foremost is to have the desire. Number one. Number two, I would see two different tandems of this digital transformation, right? Because when you go into transformation, you are mainly focused on innovation. You are mainly focused on what new technologies to invest in. But I think first and foremost is the problem you're trying to solve, right? First and foremost, so the problem should be the first indicator rather than the solution. So taking a solution focused approach can be a disaster. So if I'm moving to cloud, because everyone is moving to cloud is a disaster, right? But by the way, if no one has started move to the cloud, I think they are heading towards a disaster. So first and foremost, technology you have to go into is to one way or the other shift to the cloud technologies, because this is the first step, or this is the first platform that opens up the whole world for you. But until unless that happens, that's a disaster recipe. Number one. But one more thing is actually the concern of cybersecurity. That is the risk. So everything which is going digital and not focusing on another area which is related to security, only focusing on innovation, only focusing on speed, and giving cybersecurity or information security or privacy a second thought, you would be very late. So these two areas should go in parallel: the innovation and also the need to secure that innovation or need to stabilize that innovation is a must. My friend Wajahaat was telling a story. I was in 2015 attending a seminar in New York, and there was a director from FIA. He just started his speech by saying that, I'm more afraid of my refrigerator than my wife. Right? So everyone started laughing what a FIA director is telling the audience, which is more than 1,000 people. But yes, he was right, because his refrigerator knows more about him than his wife. So this is where the dilemma comes in. Lots of data that gets generated as part of this digital transformation, but securing that data, securing that privacy, ensuring that that confidentiality remains is another tandem of that digital transformation.
I'm glad
So
you
yes,
raised
both
that
should go
point,
together.
Mr. Qadri. Right. I'm glad you raised that point because one of the other challenges, as I see them, and Mr. Wajahat Ali, I would like for you to elaborate on this, is the fact that with the fourth industrial revolution, we've seen with digital school and virtual school and online classes in particular. And I can say this from a very personal experience as well. The reason we're so good with analytics and logic and thinking out of the box and creative spaces is that we need that human connection to be able to go to school, to be able to go to university, and meet with people, have that physical interaction, have that experiential learning. There's a lot of learning, a lot of social skills that you pick up that obviously I don't think that Zoom classes or the LMS and just working um, virtually might have. Do you think there's a way to address these things? Because obviously one of
Yeah.
the things that I saw that was lacking with the pandemic and virtual school was the fact that there was no PE lessons. So there was no PE lessons. There was no
All right.
you know, no rugby
Very
out in
good
the field.
point.
No one was
Yeah, yeah.
playing soccer.
Very good point you raised. Very good point you raised. First, I want to clear it to you that what I call the proper online or virtual school is, it must have three basic things. Number one, how much your content is engaging. Like if I talk about Zoom, a teacher is taking online class, and in fact he wasn't ready to take Zoom classes, and he was not used to do with that Zoom thing before this pandemic. So how come he will be like in a position to present something online to
That's right.
the kids? So the first thing is how much your content is engaging. So for this, what we promote, we are putting animated cartoons, animated videos into our platform, because the
Mm-hmm.
kids, they are, they like cartoons. You better know when you go home and your kids are watching Motu Patlu cartoon and they are sharing the stories. Like so, such kind of content, if we put into the learning thing, that would be more engaging and more connecting. And the eyes of the kids will always be glued to the learning thing. The second thing is how much your platform is interactive. If I talk about Zoom, so again, the physical classroom is converted to Zoom, where the teacher is the master and he is the one who is ruling the classroom. The Zoom thing, again, the same thing is happening. Teacher is the master now. First he was ruling the class physically, now he's ruling the class virtually. So there is no proper interaction. So H5P kind of platforms are available in which student can be involved in interaction. They can do drag and drop activities. They can be involved in fun kind of games where they can do real learning. And the third and most important thing in the LMS or learning platform, that is the analytics portion, like where you can find the gaps. You can properly track the learning of your kid, like at which particular point a student is struggling, or where he's performed good. So if these three things are there in your learning management system, so what this is what I call that this is now online or virtual school. Now talking about the connectivity, so if you are implementing such kind of system in regular schooling, you can convert your classroom into a flip classroom where students are learning in their homes. They are just logging into the platform or using their username and password. They are learning there, and classroom is the place for discussion where you can bring more connectivity among the students. They can collaborate on the projects. So classroom would be the place where there is only kind of discussion, problem solving, inquiry based learning is there. So this is what we call that actually STEM is, or flipped classroom is. Now, if I talk about technology and industrial revolution, so you better know about P21 organization, Partnership 21. So people from education department, people from business community like Microsoft, Apple, SAP, and people from policymakers. In 2006, they had a report that they sit together and they actually design a framework, and what we call is like 21st century framework. So this is the framework. It talk about your life and career skills, in which you should, like a kid should be having a skill of flexibility. The kids should take initiative. They should be productive, and they should be social. So the social thing is again there in that framework. And the second major component in the framework is learning skills. Now the learning skills is not like kind of traditional. You must know mathematics. You must know a language. These are things already there. But the main learning skills they are talking about in 21st century, they are the four C's. Like your kid must be, they know how to communicate. They must know collaboration. There should be creativity, like robotics and artificial intelligence. They can replace you in your workplace, but if you are creative, you are innovative, they cannot replace you. So our schools, our colleges, and our university, they must promote creativity and innovation in the classroom rather than promoting rote memorization in the classroom. So this,
Absolutely.
yeah, this could be done again. This could be done with the pedagogy of STEM. When we talk about STEM in schools, they always say us like Urdu or arts teacher. They used to tell us it is STEM. It is not about us, because why we call science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So we used to tell them actually STEM is not about these four subjects, but STEM is about a mindset where our approach, our teaching approach should be our student should be a maker. If I talk about creativity, so 21st century, in 21st century, creativity is not about the thing that you should make something very creative. If you are a maker, you can make something out of something. You are creative. So this is what we are promoting in schools, that promote creativity and innovation in classroom. And again, social skill is always there. Connectivity is always there. If you convert your classes into a flip kind of system, make it a place of discussion, collaboration, and student can learn better than you on Google, on other platform, on internet when they are at home.
Right, absolutely. You made some very valid points, and one can't help but ponder them. Mr. Noor Samad, I would like to come back to you. And with the disruption that's happening, it's also flowing from the fact that there are agile, innovative competitors who, thanks to the global digital platforms for research, development, marketing, sales, distribution, can like established incumbents, faster than anyone else by improving the quality, speed, or price at which value is delivered. So, when you have this kind of disruption in the market, you also get to identify consumer patterns, how your customers react, and this really forces companies to adapt to newer technologies and newer thought processes, newer values. What do you think is one of the trends, especially in terms of corporate governance, that companies need to adapt to in terms of keeping the consumer in mind?
Basically, if we talk about the governance, if you say, of course, in Pakistan or around the world, corporate governance is, of course, in place. But if we talk about IT governance in Pakistan, in order to make everything successful and roll and running, of course, all these things have to go line in line with it. So, in order to stay ahead of competition, because the competition would be on the daily basis, would be coming up with new technology, would be adopting new measures, taking new measures. So the organization have to continuously improve itself. It has to continuously build up culture of change within the organization. It has to bring in new talent within the organization so that they can adopt those change and come up with the new talent, new resources, so that in order to cope up with the challenges that the world is right now facing. So, if we talk about the organizations who are basically, sorry,
Right. I think there is a line in your question for a brief moment there. Would you like to please repeat yourself?
sorry. Basically, the organizations, of
Mr.
course, the organizations basically have to think towards how to improve its technological platform. Of course, with the industrial revolution, with the latest technology in place, they have to either move to the smart manufacturing, or they have to come at par with the competition in terms of investing in the IoTs, in machine learning, or in the latest technology that is available in the market, so that they can compete with the outside.
Right, right, absolutely. Ron, one of the interesting points that Noor raised was the fact that there needs to be an organizational change. When we talk about the organizational change, and especially going from the simple digitally integrated third industrial revolution to the fourth industrial revolution, which is a combination of a lot of factors, and like you kept stressing upon, the fact that human resources is also something that we must take into consideration.
Yeah.
How do organizations need to evolve, and what steps do they need to take in terms of building a contingency or implementing the right kind of systems? How do their practices and culture and value change? Because obviously they've been used to conducting business or running an organization a certain way for the longest time. So we're also bringing a shift in their mindset. How can we make this transition smoother?
I think that's an easy one. If they focus on the employee experience the same as they focus on the customer experience, and let the input from the employees as to what they're struggling with, what skills they're struggling with, and use that information, those data points, and then you have an evidence-based approach in trying to build out a new model for work, such as marketing. Marketing is more social marketing now. If I had a focus group with marketing leaders inside of my organization, we can pretty much map out together where we need to be in order to carry on the strategic initiatives of the organization. So a lot of talk is always on the customer experience, the customer side, but imagine if if you put as much emphasis on your customer base as you did from the employee side. And one of the things that was mentioned earlier concerning, I think it was Rehan, you was talking about your son is showing you the robot or whatever that he designed, and he was teaching you how it worked, or whatever it was, the technology behind it. I think one of the things we'll have to do as it relates to that is start soliciting more from our employees, because the key factor that was used with that is design thinking. If I'm looking to design a new workplace, a workforce policy, I want to get input from the audience that's going to impact. I don't want to sit in a conference room with the senior leadership team and we hash out some model and we didn't test it or we didn't get any input. I think the old way of making decisions in a silo or of management making decisions and you push that out to the employees, it's going to have to be a two-way street. You're going to have to listen to what your people are saying and use that as a framework, not that you're saying you're going to buy into it 100%, but use that as a framework to move the organization forward. What are they seeing in the businesses that they're working in? If I'm in manufacturing and I want to get some information from the shop floor as to how we can improve the process, who better to ask that question than people that are working on the floor doing the process, as opposed to having some engineering consulting firm coming in and laying out everything, leaving us with a book and we walk away. But the people that are doing it every day, they've built up a wealth of knowledge. People have been there 10 years, 15 years. Can we use some of that to build the next generation of a workforce? So design thinking is huge as it relates to solutioning, solving a problem. You have to go to the audience that's impacted and let them enable you to design it. First of all, that lessens the change barriers inside of the organization. You design it here and you push it out, everybody's pushing back and there's resistance to that. But if I were to solicit those people and figure out what are some key things that we need to do, and we design this together, we prototype it, they test it, prototype it, they test it, then we've got a model that we know can work, as opposed to creating it and sending out an email on Monday morning and it's all going to go into effect. So my thought is as we look to try and reimagine what this entire thing is going to look like, the people that are going to help us drive it is the people that are doing the work every day. A CEO client of mine told me that from day one, when we went through lockdown, that first week they polled their employees, they surveyed to find out what was happening. They created focus groups and they were consistently talking, what can we do to make this work from home experience better? What can we do also to make this work from home experience when we have to come back to work? What would you look for? And the more you solicit and get these various opinions, you can shape a product. Now that's an agile product because you may find out that once it hits the ground, it may not work, but that's okay. You're expecting that and you're going to tweak it and you're going to move forward. So I would think the key point in this fourth industrial revolution, if we're going to call it that, is that the people that sit up here are going to have to sit here and listen to the people who are doing the work, because they're going to be the ones have to take the strategy that you design and execute it to make sure you arrive at all the KPIs that you talked about. The other key point I want to mention is IBM, my former employer, gave a speech at Davos a couple of years ago, and they said the key, this was pre-COVID, the key to moving through this existence with change and AI and all these things, which were coming about years ago, is that we're going to have to create partnerships. So they talked about how they are partnering with the colleges. They talked about how they are partnering with the Department of Labor. So from our side as an organization, who are our competitors? Can we work on a project together? This happened during COVID. Some of the pharmaceutical companies worked together. FedEx, all the other companies came in and said, we can ship it. So it was kind of an approach, like a laser focus, and everyone was involved in that solutioning. So we've got schools like your son at school is important. How can we fund that school and build this next generation of leaders? How can we adopt the high school? I was vice president of human resources for Martha Stewart Living in New York. And our workforce, for the majority of our workforce, was creative people, designers. And what we did, we adopted a high school and we brought those kids in. This is way before all these kind of partnerships came about, but we adopted a high school. We had those kids come in and work after school. We had our designers that go teach a class. We had our chief design officer go to give commencements to the graduates. We became involved. We went to the Department of Education to figure out what can we do to help, because we want to give back. And we got all of our employees and everybody to give back into that funnel and getting everyone involved in it. And that's my side. The employee experience as well as creating stronger partnerships.
Right. Beautifully said on, especially about creating stronger partnerships. And that's one of the things that we aim to do at CxO Global Forum, connect people, because what we've realized is more than ever now the power of connections and connecting people and industry and academia and corporate leaders and thought leaders and industry experts. Um, Unfortunately, we're coming towards the end of the session, so which is why I'm going to quickly ask you all to give me a one-liner about your message for the audience for the day. Starting with you, Mr. Rehan Qadri.
So my one-liner would be invest in talent, build that talent pool to survive in this industrial revolution. So talent would be the key.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wajahaat Ali.
Yeah, so my message would be for the education stream. Like COVID is a call for us, and everything happens for something good, something better. So it is time to shift your school ecosystem. It is time to promote innovation and creativity in the classroom. So just take this risk, invest in your invest in your ecosystem, and inshallah, the day would be here that will be reaping out our output from our students, inshallah.
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely. Mr. Noor Samad.
For the industrial revolution to take place within the organizations, change management is number one. Number two is removing the resistive culture within the organization and stop working in silos and build up new talent in order to promote this technological.
Indeed, very, very pertinent point raised. Stop working in silos and build up the culture of working together. Ron, your last few words of wisdom for the
Yeah,
session.
the last three speakers kind of really wrapped it up, from Rehan talking about the talent portion. Because I would say from my side, as well as Noor, led with change management, the resistance inside of organizations. So my one phrase would be, in the end, talent will win.
In the end, talent will win. Indeed.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for today. We had very, very interesting session. And, it is very important to note that regardless of what you believe in, that the fourth industrial revolution is here and now. It is going to affect everybody differently, but we need to work towards adapting to this technology. Ultimately, what will happen is that the bottom line is business leaders, senior executives, they need to understand that the changing environment, challenging the assumptions of their operating teams, they need to relentlessly and continuously make that effort to innovate. You need to invest in your talent, and you also need to stay pragmatic about the future. And one more thing that's important is that we need to work on partnerships.
Yes.
We at CxO Global Forum take massive pride in the fact that we have been contributing to a lot of partnerships, whether in the private sector, within the regulators, or within the industry and academia. And the purpose of organizing such global thought spaces or digital roundtables is to get people together and really put all our minds together to think and feel and connect. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Thank you to our esteemed guests for joining us. And it's been a pleasure. And we hope to see you all next time, maybe with another very interesting topic. Please report your feedback to us on our social media pages, as well as if you want to get in touch with our speakers, do look into their LinkedIn profiles. They're very, very accomplished people. They're all our members. And we want to see you all contribute to the knowledge economy as well. Thank you for your time and thank you for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.